Hey folks, this is Rhykker, bringing you a Diablo 3 patch 2.3 Demon Hunter build guide for the Unhallowed Essence set. We've previously gone over the Natalia's build, and in patch 2.3, both Natalia's and Unhallowed Essence are shaping up to be roughly equally powerful endgame builds. It really should just come down to a matter of personal preference of the different gameplay styles. We're going to go over the skills, the gear, the gems, and everything that you need to push the highest grifts with Unhallowed Essence. I will note that this is recorded on the public test realm, and while we're only a couple weeks away from patch 2.3 going live, I do ask you to check back in the future for any updates to this build. So, the core of this build revolves around the Unhallowed Essence set, and the 6-piece bonus, which makes multi-shot and your generators deal 15% increased damage for every point of discipline you have. For that reason, we really want to maximize how much discipline we have, because that translates into a straight damage buff. Multi-shot will be our core damage dealer. So if we take a look at our skills, you can see that we're going with multi-shot arsenal. This will be a fire build. We will also be using a generator, and that will be evasive fire focus. It may not be a fire skill, but that's not where our damage is coming from. It'll generate a ton of hatred very quickly, combined with other gear that we're getting, and its wide shotgun area of effect makes it really easy to hit enemies. And we're going to want to do that in order to trigger our focus and restraint set, which we'll get to shortly. Next, we want preparation invigoration. Remember, we're trying to maximize our discipline, and this permanently increases your max discipline by 15. That's a ton more damage right there, and this skill is indispensable. Next, we use Caltrops Bait the Trap. Anytime you enter combat, you want to drop Caltrops on the floor, and that's because the Bait the Trap rune grants you an additional 10% critical hit chance whenever you're standing in the trap. Of course, this has the added benefit of slowing enemies that come at you, so that when you fall back, you've got some traps up front to slow down the enemy advance, which will also enable you to trigger your Cull the Weak passive and your Bane of the Trapped gem, because this will apply a slow effect. Next, we want Smokescreen Displacement. This is your mobility skill, and while I used to be all for Vault Tumble, for pushing the highest greater rifts, the invulnerability that Smokescreen gives you is really valuable. In fact, it's a great trick for fighting reflex damage packs, which would otherwise kill you just about instantly. Ideally, you don't want to fight reflex damage at all, but if you can take a shot at them while you're smoke screened, you can deal damage without taking damage. Then lastly, we have Companion Wolf Companion. This gives you just a bit more damage when you need it. For our passives, we want Cull the Weak for more damage against slowed or chilled enemies. We want Ambush for that big damage bonus at the start of a fight. We need Awareness for pushing the highest greater rifts to get that free revive. And we want Ballistics, because most of our damage from multi-shot is coming from the rockets, and Ballistics buffs our rocket damage tremendously. For a 5th passive, which you'll want through the Hellfire Amulet, you'll want to use Night Stalker. This is going to give you more hatred every time you shoot with a hatred generator. As for the gear, you really don't have a lot of choices. You're locked into quite a number of key gear pieces, and this is what it's looking like. For your shoulders, Unhallowed Essence. Ideal stats, Dex, Vitality, All Resist, and Resource Cost Reduction. For your Helm, Unhallowed Essence, Dex, Crit Chance, Multi-Shot Damage, and you can go with either a Diamond or an Amethyst. You'll reach a point in the highest grifts where more toughness doesn't help, in which case the Diamond would benefit you more for that added cooldown reduction. But if you aren't pushing as far as you can go, and just want to be able to comfortably grift, then you can go with the Amethyst. For your Amulet, you want the Hellfire Amulet. Again, it doesn't matter which passive you specifically get on the Hellfire, as long as you can get those 5 passives that we listed off before. Your ideal stats would be fire damage, crit chance, and crit damage, but depending on how high your rolls are, various combinations of Dex, crit chance, crit damage, or fire damage will do. For your torso, you want the Unhallowed Essence set, Dex, Vitality, All Resist, and as a secondary stat, very important, plus max discipline. Again, this translates into more damage, significantly more damage. For your gloves, Unhallowed Essence, Dex, crit damage, crit chance, and resource cost reduction. For your belt, Hunter's Wrath. Ideal stats, Dex, Vitality, All Resist, Life percent, and this will enable you to spam your generator that much faster. It'll also make it deal more damage, but that's not really important. This will allow you to rapidly regenerate resource. For your bracers, Wraps of Clarity, fire damage, dex, vitality, crit chance, And this gives you some nice damage reduction basically all the time, because you're gonna be pumping your generator at least once every 5 seconds. For your rings, focus and restraint, as we said, this will more than double your damage as long as you keep proccing those bonuses. And with the stutter step that we're gonna explain soon, you should have this bonus up all the time. Ideal stats: Dex, crit chance, crit damage. Pants, Unhallowed Essence, Dex, Vitality, all resist. Boots, Unhallowed Essence, Dex, Vitality, all resist multi-shot damage. For your bow, you want Yang's Recurve. This makes multi-shot attack 50% faster and cuts your resource costs roughly in half. Ideal stats: plus % damage, Dex, resource cost reduction, and obviously a socket with an emerald in it. Now the thing with Yang's Recurve is that it comes with resource cost reduction on it already, but you can roll resource cost reduction on it again. So it naturally has between 40 and 50% resource cost reduction, but if you roll off another stat into resource cost reduction, the two will combine and seem to be one stat, but it will actually increase it to a total range of 45 to 55, as opposed to just the base 40 to 50. But lastly, on the bow, very important as a secondary plus max discipline. Then lastly, we need the Dead Man's Legacy offhand. This allows your multi-shot to hit twice on enemies below roughly half health. Ideal stats: Dex, attack speed, crit chance, multi-shot damage, increased damage against elites, or resource cost reduction, and very important on the secondary, plus max discipline. So in total, you should be getting plus 12 max discipline from your chest, plus 12 from your bow, and plus 12 from your quiver. That's a total of 36 additional discipline, which at 15% per point of discipline is an additional 540% damage. As for what you're gonna put in Kanai's cube, for your armor slot, you need to put in the Cinder Coat, 30% resource cost reduction to your fire skills. This is why we're speccing to a fire build. For your ring, Convention of Elements will give you a nice damage buff, and for your weapon slot, Calamity will give you a nice damage buff as well. The build I'm using in the gameplay footage suffers for two reasons. First, I don't have an ancient Yang's Recurve. With an ancient weapon, I'd be doing about 30% more damage, and so I'd be able to push the higher greater rifts more easily. Second, I've also not found a Calamity. I'm instead using a Thunder Fury, because this spreads a wave of lightning throughout my enemies that applies a slow effect on them, thus allowing me to trigger my Bane of the Trapped and my Cull the Weak passive. That brings us to our legendary gems. As I said, Bane of the Trapped. Straight damage buff to control impaired enemies. Next, Taeguk. We're gonna try to maintain max stacks at all times, and we'll explain how in just a moment as we get into the gameplay style. The third legendary gem we want is Zay's Stone of Vengeance. The further you are away from your enemies, the more damage you deal. Straightforward. Multi-shot has a huge range, and you can hit enemies that you're not even seeing. As for Paragon Points, for your core, make sure that between your Paragon Points and your gear you have max movement speed. Dump the rest into dexterity. For offense, crit chance and crit damage are the most important. I would then go with attack speed and lastly cooldown reduction. For your defense, all resist, then life and armor. For utility, resource cost reduction, then area damage, then life on hit. Now, as for how you're gonna play this, you're gonna have to master the stutter step. And what stutter step means is moving, shooting, moving, shooting. You need to be multi-shotting at least once every 3 seconds, otherwise you'll lose your Taeguk stacks. Between your multi-shots, you'll also be rotating in some shots from your generator. Now, depending on your attack speed and your hatred generation, you're gonna find some rhythm at which you can roughly maintain a static amount of hatred. But you also want to be pumping your generator at least once every 5 seconds in order to maintain your damage reduction from Wraps of Clarity, as well as your bonus from Focus and Restraint. Remember to always fight from within your caltrops to gain that bonus damage from the enhanced critical hit chance, and pop Smokescreen whenever you need to stay alive. Now, as we wrap up this guide, I'll remind you that this is recorded on the public test realm. Some changes may still come, so do check back in the future for any updates to this build. Thanks for watching, check out these other videos, and if you enjoyed this one, share with friends, leave a comment, hit like, and subscribe to join Rhykker's Raiders.